A couple years out of college I worked as an analyst at a pretty small private equity firm. The CEO was one of the biggest assholes I've ever met. He was fairly young in his 40s, a multi-millionaire, and the type of guy driven solely by money with zero business ethics. He'd do anything to get the upper hand in a deal regardless of who it screws over, contractors, employees. I even saw him seriously fuck over a longtime family friend of his without any. Aside from my analyst role, as it was a really small business, only about 20 people in the office, and then a bunch of people working remote, I also happened to be one of the only semi-technology literate people in the company. So like many of I became the de facto millennial office computer guy too. Despite my lack of qualifications, I got put in charge of handling pretty much anything minor tech related. Setting up servers, fixing issues, answering, how do I convert this to PDF questions, even basic network security. They thought I was some sort of computer genius, but really I was just mostly winging it. Googling pretty much everything. But eventually I got legitimately pretty good at all the tech stuff. They gave me bigger tasks like planning all of the computer systems for their own businesses and supervising installs. I didn't get paid extra for any of this, mind you. After a couple years of serious bullshit working there, I was pretty worn out. I wasn't progressing. I hated working for Captain like shit. I was pulling 12 to 14 plus hour days with no overtime or performance bonus. And they weren't paying me nearly what they should have. I also hated being the tech guy and was depressed as fuck basically. Living in a cubicle. So I decided I full-on had enough of the 9/8 life working for assholes and I would start my own consulting business working for myself. However, instead of quitting right away, I figured it would be smart to first build up my client base on the side while I was still getting a steady paycheck. So that's what I did. I launched my company and landed my first clients. As the workload increased, I slowly started spending more and more time working on my side business while at my office job. At first I was pretty low-key about it. It was blatant. As it was a super small company, I was the only one who knew how to do a lot of important tasks and operate some key internal systems. It was easy for me to tell my boss a project was taking a whole week to complete that I actually finished in 10 minutes. Pretty soon I was spending 80% of my day working on my own stuff in the office. I'd even take calls for my side business clients at my desk. The rest of the time I was usually dicking around on Reddit or something. Of course, we had systems in place to monitor network activity. But I was the person in charge of monitoring it. This continued for a while. As my own business ramped up, I cared less and less about the office job. And since I hated waking up early, I began rolling into work late. At first it was only 30 minutes or so. Then it progressed to an hour. When my boss didn't reprimand me, it became clear how much they needed me there. I took full advantage of this. Before long I was arriving around noon, working for a couple hours, then heading home. My coworkers weren't happy, but I helped them with all of their tech problems and so they kept their mouths shut about it. My boss eventually said something to me about all it at one point, but I just came in on time the next few days and then went back to coming in whenever I wanted. After more than 2 months of coming in 4 to 5 hours late and working on my side business in full view of my asshole boss, I couldn't believe I wasn't fired yet. I deserved it and felt it was in. I decided to do a little investigative work. As I was the tech guy, I also had full access to the company email server. So I logged into the CEO's personal email account and searched for my name. Lo and behold, there was a recent email, my direct boss, and some other team members with my name in the subject line. Obviously I open it. They're discussing my recent performance issues. The last email in the chain basically said, if nobody has any objections, I will be terminating him at the end of the week. 2 days from then. I wasn't surprised, but I decided there was no way I was going to let these assholes fire me. Although I didn't give a shit about that job, I didn't want to have a termination in my work history. I also wanted to keep getting paid for a while longer. Of course, I couldn't let him know I actually knew I was getting canned. So, I formulated a plan to perform a little inception reverse psychology mindfuck on the CEO. The next day, one day before, I requested a meeting with him to discuss my current performance. In that meeting I sat down and he asked me what I wanted to talk about. So I told him, paraphrased, look, I know I've been a shitty employee lately. I'm sure you've noticed. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been kind of getting the feeling planning to let me go soon. When I said, That the shocked look on his face was priceless. He must have thought I was psychic to work that out on my own the day before it was going to happen. I remember saying something like I continued while he sat flabbergasted. So I'll be honest with you, my heart isn't in this job anymore. As you know, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, which I'm sure you can relate to. I want to start my own company. As you're aware, I have a lot of responsibilities here nobody else can do. I then proceeded to list all of the things I did and projects I was working on. I could see it on his face when the realization sunk in of how screwed he'd be if I left suddenly. So here's what I propose. You don't fire me. I don't quit. I keep working, finish my current projects, and train whoever you want on everything I'm in charge of. After a month is up, I will continue to come in once per week until it's complete. After that, if you still need me, you can pay me on an hourly project-by-project basis. I intentionally mentioned the possibility of me quitting so he could feel like he won the negotiation, even though I technically had him by the balls. He paused to think for a minute, then said something along the lines of, "Okay. You have a deal." So, not only did I get myself unfired, I actually turned the company into a paying client. During that month, I continued doing pretty much whatever I wanted since I had an expiration date while training my replacement as promised. After the month was up, they hit me up regularly for remote task work. I charged them triple and barely had to deal with the CEO. My client base was big enough I dropped them for good. After all that, the CEO still calls me up for advice questions nearly 3 years later. These days I just blow him off saying sorry, I'm too busy. Edit, as it seems there's some doubt that this actually happened. It did. Figured I'd clarify a few points. 1. This was a very small company. The office had about 20 and several dozen more worked remote. If you've never worked in a small office before, I can assure you it's pretty normal for employees to wear many hats and take on random roles outside their initial scope. It's also pretty normal for them severely lacking with network security and controlling passwords. 2. I did not become some computer genius and never claimed to be, though my company of technology illiterate baby boomers sometimes thought of way. I had decent basic working knowledge coming into the job and picked up more over the several years I was there. For anything complicated, like wiring, hardware installs, advanced networking tasks etc., we hired outside consultants. But I was the guy who would source them, hire them, supervise them and learn the systems they put in place. And I just handled more basic tasks myself. We're also not talking about enterprise-level security here either. 3. My consulting business has nothing to do with private equity. I'm not going to reveal exactly what I do for privacy's sake since this blew up. But it's in marketing. I didn't steal any of my old company's clients when I left and don't compete with them for, yes, I'm fully aware and admit I was an asshole, hence posting this in our confession. In fact, I decided to start my own company because I hate working for other people without my own skin in the game. I'm not a great employee when I don't care about what I'm doing. However, the guys running the company were pretty shitty people. And I did not feel that bad about it at the time. The thing I did have reservations about was snooping on the emails. I do not condone invading privacy like that. However, he'd freely given me the passwords so I could help him set up his Outlook, forwarding. And I felt me getting fired was inevitably coming soon.
Hell yes bro, that S. How you fucking do it? Congrats. This reads like it could have been an Office Space sequel. Is this a confession or a brag?
Honestly though, who cares if it was made up, because it was such an entertaining read.
I like the training montage in the middle, just needed.
Inspiration 80 seconds music 7 or 10 would watch on VHS.
Quite an awesome one, that is for sure.
Almost 90 of it is looking stuff up, but that's not that hard if you grew up around it. Or if you had even touched CMD and known what you were doing.
You sound like a huge wanker TPH.
That S looking is hard to believe you're maybe even just spoiled looking.
For people who are professional and not insane.
I worked for a guy that matches every descriptor you used, and I do like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You sound like more of a douche than your former boss.
You were hired for hired or open source equals Reddit Android. Or for happened. Greater than couldn't he believe you weren't fired, yet greater than pissed they were going to fire you.
Why do you care? If it's made up or not, it was a great story.
Regardless, it was definitely worth the read.
Grassy ass. That is definitely the kind of shit that people who think they're
Coke habit is manageable and unnoticeable do. I like the part where you became a tech genius by using Google, whereas people go to
school for years and still suck. Lol, I believe you though. Bara Phantom Abuser.
Well, the problem with lies disguised as true stories is people think
It works and try to use it in their own experiences, which leads to
terrible outcome. This is how fake news spreads. Yeah, on not up are you? You were already pushing it with the original story.
Wanker who S, doing better than any of us.
If someone is dumb enough to try to duplicate App's story, they deserve any new consequences. Or are a promissory up and nobody clapped at the end.
It's fantasy writing club.
You really overestimate company security and their CEO's competence when it comes to its stuff.
Yep, not sure if this is even a confession. Lol. You're my freaking idol.
I won't lie, I'm still skeptical, but it sounds more believable now. You know, like Googling how to do cybersecurity for multi-million-dollar transactions, you sounds easy.
How is it hard to believe, though I've been in similar
situations and it was kind of relatable.
Master of skill, find companies who need that skill, tell them you're a consultant and we'll teach them the skill in exchange for money.
God, you sound like the worst co-worker. Why people hate IT.
Wow, buddy, you must have a really shitty life, with some basement dweller making up revenge fantasies for fake internet points is doing better than you.
Need a pontoon to navigate this bullshit.
Who the fuck remembers conversations word for word years after it happened? Entertaining story though.
I don't think it was a drag like fan fiction so much.
If it is so unbelievable, decimeters me your address and I'll send you some good reads if you wish.
Didn't you hear Boser's the one everyone is rooting for now? Ah yes, that's a reasonable way to imagine it. Now I can picture him right. I've met people like that guy before they exist.
How old were you when you realized that the thug life was for you?
Congrats for his accomplishment.
On what grounds?
The high grounds.
Very probably paraphrasing. Also, it seems to be a fairly big moment in Alp's life, so maybe they do actually remember it word for word.
Technically the narrator, I was also thinking Fight Club while reading this.
This sounds like absolute and utter bullshit.
Tit for tat for the boss, but then you became him. I care App is a fraud, and a liar. It's cringy to read through all the comments that
people who actually believe this shit into writing.
People will then think this works and try it themselves only to fail miserably.
Because they believed a story on the internet.
But they're mutually exclusive.
App has zero work ethics, didn't read the parts about 14-hour days and doing at least a full cover employee's worth of tasks.
Did everyone in the restaurant stand up and clap after he
Blue cigar smoke in the server's face.
The Google part really resonated with me. I get asked technical questions at
Work all the time and I am now the computer guy. I literally Google everything. Assuming it has real I mean.
That S because it totally is.
And I don't doubt that, but this is the second.
Extremely far-fetched story from this guy.
This isn't a confession.
What did they say? Teach a seminar. I suppose the story is confirmed, then guess I'll go fuck myself.
Speak to us in detailed geek speak if you did all this.
Call BS, tell us how command server builds.
Protocols for access to search CO email. Something is off, bro, sorry. I loved Harry Potter, and it was a much more believable and better written story.
That's what I was confused about. Hate the job and treat it like shit, then you're mad they were going to fire you.
When you were expecting it.
Anyone else feel like this sub is creative writing? Time theft is stealing, whether you call it embezzlement or not.
moral of the story: you are a douchebag.
This is movie material. Way to go.
People actually believe stories in the sub that are longer than a paragraph.
I'm gonna do both and hedge my bets.
Yes, it is. Do you care about Mario? Hurry, time is running out.
This does sound like it could be made up, but bro, it's the internet. If you try and
Scrutinize everything for its veracity, you're just not.
Gonna have a good time.
Then everyone walked out with him.
Work ethic doesn't apply when your boss have none, dude.
To us from tech support.
Where'd you learn all these skills? What major did you study in learning some? Computer networking stuff in the military, but I want to put on a similar pair of
shoes that you're wearing one day, man.
TLDR, this never happened. Ultimate's bleep blip. I am about this portmanteau was created from the phrase ultimate.
Finesse. To learn more about me, check out this fact.
These stories are exciting, because I believe it happened in real life, which makes slightly mundane mostly.
ordinary things more exciting if I wanted to read exciting.
Fiction. I do just read books.
is this real?
Lol, maybe if you apply this to important factual information, but this is purely entertainment. Yeah, okay, cool story, Broseph.
I don't know how people actually believe shit like this.
It's a fake story glamorizing shitty behavior, I know.
And think this is an example of someone wanting to get down fire own pants.
Is paid time not a resource?
Not really related, but I learned very early in my career that letting people know you're IT capable is a terrible idea. I now just act.
And when nobody asks me to do extra shit, it's the best.
For bad fiction writing.
As soon as I hear about a tech guy reading employee emails, that person would never get hired by me for anything more than cleaning the floors.
Or if it happened.
How do you even start a consulting business?
Like putting a scorpion in a cage with a crawfish. I like your thinking.
You triple your bank money, but seriously do it right now. Time is almost out. Please, Mario is on his last breath, man, come on.
That's almost dead. I mean, I have doubts over how much actually good material you've read in.
Your life if you consider run-of-the-mill cookie-cutter revenge.
Fantasies like this one such an entertaining read.
It sounded like a Wolf of Wall Street rip-off to me.
Not for nothing my girlfriend works at an office, and no one knows how to fucking print.
Cheers from Not a Rock.
Same thoughts exactly, you're kind of the fucking hero op, lol.
Nah, I do think he got rich on the paperclip Snape.
Being a narcissistic jerky.
My beats only go up so far. assuming it as real I mean.
Fair enough.
This is prompt shit lol. Did you work for Trump lol? Clarification, who did you say was the dick here? Why the happened?
Sometimes I wonder how people come up with these stories.
He said he knew a little bit about computers, but he was
Mostly reading it with Google open 24/7.
Fake but good read.
Alright, it happened.
So you are saying you have no integrity and you will do shady shit too.
Get the upper hand. What do clients think about that?
You're welcome.